Hey guys, how you going? It's Taylor here. In today's video, I'm going to be running through my most used plugins in 2024. I initially set out to make a list of a top 10, but I found it quite difficult. So I thought I would just show you everything that I've been using recently in a bit of context. So I've got a Logic session open here, kind of tailored towards showing you guys my most used plugins. I think where I will start is probably my most used plugin, and it is just the basic Logic EQ. There's nothing wrong with this plugin. It's no FabFilter Pro Q3. There's no dynamic range, dynamic controls on it, but to achieve small moves, it does the job well. Definitely don't look past just putting this on a track. It's quite low impact, doesn't use much CPU, and it does the job. Here's in context. As you can hear, quite a bright push clean crunch sound, and then you just add the EQ in. You can kind of do what you need to do. I'm telling you right now, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, probably my most used plugin, and it just came with Logic, so that's pretty good. Next things I will run through are probably my three most used guitar plugins. Neural DSP has featured quite heavily on my channel. My most viewed videos all revolve around Neural DSP. So yeah, I thought I would show you guys kind of my most used ones. So Pliny X is by far would be something that I would go to quite frequently for just in the writing process. When I'm just writing anything, I'll just flick through all these presets or the ones that I've created. So with this, using Pliny X in this demo here, I've written just a very basic, quick track to kind of show off some plugins that I use. I'm using Pliny X on the left-hand side. I'll just put it in mono so you can hear it in isolation. So that's with no additional processing on it at the moment besides stuff on my stereo output. But the next one is Gojira X. I love this plugin. I've got a bunch of presets that I go to, and I don't really stray from them, the ones that I've created. For this one here, it's a bit of a percussive one string preset that I've got. Again, we'll hear it in isolation. Just adds a nice level of distortion onto the guitar. Now these both together, just giving you a bit of context of how blending these two amps sound. So that's why these two are my go-to for two of my most used. Yeah, they just sound so good, and I've done no additional processing to them. For this one here, I have Nolly X, also a Neural DSP Nolly X. It is so good. I've got a bit of a Jimmy Eat World preset that I've created. I'm not sure if it sounds like that anymore. Maybe I've edited it. Okay, let's just hear this in isolation. Pretty cool. Yeah, I love Nolly X. It's by far one of my favorite ones. Yeah, all built-in effects here. And now on to some of the other more frequently used plugins that I use. I love this by Waves, the Renaissance compressor, axe compressor. I'll give you the Nolly guitar tone without it. It's just such a good compressor. It's very basic in terms of the controls, the attack. You can get rid of all of the attack of the guitar if you take it all the way to 0, or you can increase more attack. Yeah, I love this plugin. I think I saw Zach Safini from who mixed like Bring the Horizon and stuff like that. He was using this, so I got it and I don't regret it. It is so good. I use it pretty much on all my guitar tones where I want to add a bit of compression, which is not all the time, but when I do, that's one that I go to. And the next most used plugin, well, I think I use this in every mix, and I think it's for good reason, is Soothe. Soothe is such a good plugin. It does exactly what it says in the presets. For this one, I'm using it to kind of tame the digital sound of the Neural DSP plugins. It's not necessarily essential. You can kind of just use EQs, but this one is very good at reacting to what it hears. And yeah, everyone knows what Soothe does. Let's just hear what it does. Just gets rid of them very harsh high frequencies, which comes potentially with a digital amp. With guitar amp sims, you're more likely to get the full frequency range than you are when you're miking a guitar cab, because that's filtering out specific frequencies. So it is good to have Soothe to have the ability to maintain that. I also use Soothe. I'm going to jump ahead here and go to the drum bus. Use Soothe. This is a bit, I'm using Soothe here on the main drum bus directly just to smooth out a bit of the cymbals. We will just solo that. It's kind of similar, doing similar things for me here in terms of maintaining high frequencies, but that's why I love Soothe so much and use it so much, is because you can just put it on certain things and flick through the presets, kind of see what people are doing, and yeah, from there do some adjustments. But it says what it does on the box in terms of presets. It was bringing down the harshness of the cymbals, it was smoothing them, so I love Soothe. The next plugin that I've used most frequently in 2024 would be a new one. This one has superseded kind of what I was using for bass VST. It's the Architect's bass. This is brand new from Submission Audio. I would normally use probably the Get Good Drums Nolly bass. That's been featured heavily on this channel. It's always good to get new things, and this bass here, it's sick. It's a Dingwall bass. The guy from Architects uses, it's his signature model, and it sounds pretty damn good. Again, I haven't gone crazy. For this one, I haven't gone crazy in terms of getting the velocities correct to have the best performance, but I've just put it together to show you how things sound in context. So this is why I love this plugin. Yeah, it's a pretty riveting bass line, but it sounds good. It sounds real without doing much. Yeah, it kind of can do it all, the presets on it. Maybe I'll do a video where I go through a bit more. This plugin, it's just great. I find that this particular bass gives me more of the range between modern sound, and you can kind of get more in the vintage realm to something like the Nolly bass. It's just the specific bass that they've sampled. This one's a bit closer to what I want, so this one's going to be taking control of the bass for my demos, and that's why it's probably going to be my most used bass of 2025, but I wanted to feature it in this video because it's new and it's now taken the place of the nollie bass. But yeah, Get Good Drums nollie bass was my most used, but this one has taken its place. Okay, to go through another plugin that I have frequently used this year is something from STL Tones. It's Control Hub, which recently got updated. So with Control Hub, it's got a lot of presets, so I find myself flicking through and kind of seeing what other mixers are doing in terms of moves for compression or adding specific frequencies. I'm not the world's best mixer. I'm just having a crack, and I find that actually Control Hub, as well as it sounds good, it's quite a good learning tool to kind of see the bits of gear that people are using, because it has it all listed here in terms of, here, like EQ. You can, as you go through presets, you can kind of see, and I find that to be invaluable in itself. And you can see like EQ moves, and you can see what type of compression they're using, how much compression. It's a great learning tool as well as a great sounding plugin. I've got this on the bass here, just a Kurt Crummett preset. And let's hear it in context. Now without it. Yeah, it's doing what the preset, well, this preset doesn't have a specific name, but it's just doing what I want in terms of EQ and color for this preset. And then also another plugin I use frequently is the Infinity EQ2 from Slate Digital. I don't have any of the FabFilter plugins yet. They are just a little bit out of the price range. I definitely want to get them, but I find that this Slate Infinity EQ, with its recent updates for dynamic EQ and stuff like that, it kind of gets me majority of the way there. Maybe one day I'll have the FabFilter stuff, but at the minute I've got this, and that's fine, it's doing the job. When I want to do a bit more in-depth kind of mid-side EQ and stuff like that, I will definitely lean towards this one over just the stock Logic EQ or anything modeled. If I just want to get surgical, this is my go-to. I'm not doing much here. I'm just maintaining sub frequencies, but yeah, I wouldn't look past using the Infinity EQ2. It is great. I would go watch some of the videos of people going through this online and the new dynamic EQ modes. It can do a lot, so definitely don't sleep on the Infinity EQ2. Okay, my most used drum VST of 2024 would be the One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion. I have a video which I will link up here of running through all the One Kit Wonder libraries. That I was minus a couple that didn't quite fit the song that I wrote. It was a bit more of a punky song. So the likes of the classic rock and the dry and funky just didn't quite sound as good in context as the others, but out and out, after doing that, I fell in love with Modern Fusion. It sounds great. It's not sampled to be just an out and out metal kit. It can do it, but it's got a lot more of a dynamic range to some of the other One Kit Wonders. When I'm writing music, I want to keep the CPU usage as low as possible. So using a One Kit Wonder is generally where I'll go. And what I will do is just directly on the bus. I'm doing it in this example here because I wanted to show this, just to show you how good these drum library sounds without doing much. Directly on the bus, I am just doing a few things here. I am just doing a very much Nolly, Get Good, Eric Valentine inspired, distressor parallel compression blended in. This again, can add it to the list. It is one of my most used plugins because I do this every time on the drum bus when riding, so it's just a single track. So as you can see, it's the drum VST is outputting into this sum here, and that is just, there's no multi-out, it's just a stereo instance, and that's coming out of this bus. The distressor is on it, and it's just doing what it does best. Okay, let's hear it. The One Kit Wonder sounds good without it, but let's hear it with it on. Just a lot more energy. Yeah, it sounds good. It helps it punch through the mix very well. And then the other plugin that I use directly after that every single time, so added to the list of the most used plugins in 2024, is the Gullfoss audio limiter. This limiter is invaluable. I use it so frequently. I use it on heaps of stuff. May it be a guitar bus, it's just a specific guitar, just these presets that Dan Gullfoss have, you could use it for anything. Using it on tom groups, using it on vocals. Very frequently I use it I actually use this plugin within my video editing software to bring up the volume of this microphone. It just can do it all. It's so good. Yeah, but I normally put either the punchy drum bus if I'm using more of a metal, if I'm doing more of a metal song, the punchy drum bus is my go-to, but for this one I'm using the warm drum bus preset. Sometimes I tweak the threshold and ceiling depending on what I want. But yeah, I always just use this. I've used it so much this year, ever since it came out. So here it is without. Now with. Just so good. It is such a good plugin. Let's hear it in context with all the guitars and bass. I have them guitars obnoxiously loud just because I'm showing off the Neural DSP plugins, but the limiter really helps push through. The Gullfoss audio limiter, that is so good. I definitely recommend getting this. Again, on this bus, I have Soothe, just maintaining high frequencies. When I'm doing this approach with the drum VST for the riding phase, the parallel compression is directly on the bus, so the cymbals are getting to it as loud as you're hearing it. So I always throw an instance of Soothe, as I've said just before. It really does well at handling, because you don't really want to parallel compress your overheads and your cymbals so much. So this does a good job of just ducking it down a bit, maintaining it, and the drums sound good. Yeah, it's great. Also, what I'm doing for the drums in this context of this mix is something that I've been doing frequently recently, is adding some samples to it, because the Get Good Drums Slammers Power Vault samples came out, and they are so good and they blend so well with the One Kit Wonders. So if I want a bit more out of the One Kit Wonder, I can use it. Maybe if I want a bit more of a roomier snare or a thicker snare, or without having everything multied out and doing a lot of moves, I can just add a few samples in and I am off and riding. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the aliasing trick within Logic Pro, and these two tracks here are just seeing the MIDI MIDI being used on the drum VST. So if I edit the MIDI there, I will just drag down so the aliasing can read the MIDI above. And I just use Trigger 2 here, which I can add it to the list of most used plugins because now I use it frequently, by Stephen Slate. Alongside with these Get Good Drum samples, yeah, this is kind of my go-to riding drum sound, so it's used super frequently. So let's hear it. So without the samples, still sounds great, but with the samples now, yeah, it just gets me more where I wanted to go to be inspired to write. I'll add a little trick in here, may as well for the video, is that sometimes I find I need to adjust the sample delay for specific ones. Yeah, the kick in this one, obviously, for some reason, the samples are just a little bit misaligned, so I've just adjusted it. It's just all by ear. If you can hear a bit of a flam or a bit of bass frequencies cancelling each other out, or whatever it may be, yeah, you can just adjust that. Which takes me into another frequently used plugin by Waves Audio, is this one here. It's the Sheps Parallel Particles. Yeah, I use it on a lot of stuff. I can't even begin to explain how much stuff I use it on. I'm not using the vocal preset. I don't know why that says that there. I am just using this here to add a bit of thickness and sub to the kick. So it's just the sample. So we'll hear the sample isolated. So obviously the volume's increasing, but as you can hear, it's adding a lot of what it's saying here, a lot of thickness and a lot of sub. This has a lot of stuff obviously going on behind the hood. I don't know, I'm not smart enough to understand it, but I can tell that there is obviously a lot of EQ going on and a lot of saturation and compression. I don't know exactly, I haven't looked into it too much, but it is so good. I would definitely recommend this plugin. It is so good. Okay, so I will give you a bit of a playthrough of all that stuff here in a song. Everything I've just run through can give you sounds like this pretty quickly. As you can see, there's not many tracks and there's not much plugins here. It's just literally the virtual instruments and a few little bits and bobs here, and you can get this sound. It sounds pretty good. Yeah, as you can see, that's why these are in my writing templates. They just sound so good with not much. What I will lead into next is some more plugins that I use super frequently, but they are on my stereo output. Everything sounds as good as it does. A lot to do with these plugins here. This is kind of my standard format. When I'm writing, generally, I will only have a limiter on just to make it a bit easier to bring the volume up. I will add probably between 3 to 6 dB every time, and it frequently changes which limiter I use, but I'll give you my three most used limiters. Oxford limiter, I love this plugin. The enhance feature here, it's unreal. This is probably my go-to for just getting started. It's a pretty good limiter. Yeah, just bringing the volume up, limiting everything. It's pretty damn good. Next one I use a lot is the Submission Audio Flatline 2. I love this plugin, love the presets. I love the Erminator preset. This plugin, this preset, pretty much on majority of the stuff that I've put out on YouTube. It's super good, super helpful that you can target levels for specific streaming platforms. So I target levels on this all the time to kind of hit what I want in terms of levels for YouTube. Okay, let's just hear this preset work. So I'm just gonna bring down the output so I don't blow any ears off. The other one I use frequently too is the FGX2. Probably less so, I probably use the other two a bit more than this one, but I'm starting to lean into using this one. I don't mind what it does. It has some cool controls. It's quite intuitive. Let's have a bit of a listen. What I like about this one is the transients. You can add a transient back in. So if your transients are getting kind of squished in terms of limiting, you can add, you can add some more transients back in. Again, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with this one. I'm starting to use it a bit more frequently. So I have been floating between using a few things. I will show you all of them. This UAD SSL G bus compressor. It's either this or the Slate Virtual Grey. It just floats in between. I like both of them because they have the high pass filter and you can kind of make sure that the bass, the kick drum's not affecting the compression too much. And then also the Slate, I'll just get it up. The two Slate plugins. It's the FG Grey and the FG Red. It's either that, depending on the flavor I'm going for, it's them two or this one here, the UAD SSL G bus compressor. Yeah, it's great. Context. So good. I'm doing the Nolly Get Good trick where you kind of bringing back the snare in the mix. It's kind of the compressor's ignoring the kick drum. It's attacking the snare, ducking it down a bit. Sounds so good. Okay, the next thing on the mastering bus is the probably most invaluable plugin I've got in terms of context. Without using reference tracks, you can pretty much get lost in however things sound. This here gives context all the time. You can turn this plugin in and it kind of tells you what it thinks things should sound like. It's a pretty awesome plugin. Again, I'm nowhere near intelligent enough to know exactly how it's doing what it's doing, but it's so good. Let's just hear it. It just sounds like a finished product as soon as you turn it on. These are my go-to settings. I will either float between 15 to 30% recovery and tame, and the brightness, if finding the mix is coming out too bright, I will just bring the brightness down in percentage, or if it needs a bit more. But yeah, Gullfoss, it's so good. It's just this crazy EQ thing that's going on. I bought it and I don't regret it because it makes everything sound like a finished product, and that's invaluable. Okay, so I've kind of run through my go-to plugins for mixing moves, guitar, bass, drums. I thought I would quickly run through some things that I use maybe less frequently, but I've been finding myself using them a lot more in 2024, and it is synths and things that I use for like production elements. So Serum's probably my go-to synth, along with Splice. I've got it within the Splice package. Going through Splice and all the presets are on there, I find that it turns Serum into an absolute monster. Yeah, there's so many videos on YouTube about Serum. I'm not going to go into too many details about it. It's just an awesome synth. For example, this is what it sounds like, this preset. So that's just using Splice and a bit of a Serum loop. And yeah, sounds amazing. Also, what I'm using here is Spitfire Audio's Epic Strings. Spitfire Audio has a lot of cool sample libraries and VSTs. I pretty much float between. Whenever I want strings, I'm going here, I'm going to Spitfire Audio. So if it is the BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is free, again, definitely look that, it's free, so definitely get it. And then the original series, I love them, they're so good. A lot of versatility. Let's hear the strings in context, very basic strings. My other go-to synths are these here, Teletone Audio, the Legibbet, the Animorph, just a bunch of their ones. I've got a handful, and I use them all the time. They sound amazing. Pretty much spend time flicking through presets, and you can't go wrong. Let's have a listen of what I've got going on here. Sounds cool. It's just an arpeggiated kind of bass line, but with a bit of grit. Yeah, awesome. Teletone Audio VSTs, definitely check them out. They work within the free Contact library. Yeah, amazing, so good. And the other thing I would mention is I use pretty much in every single song I've got, I use Splice and this plugin here, Splice Bridge. So what Splice Bridge does, you have a desktop app where you have access to everything on Splice. And you can activate a bridge between your DAW and Splice. So instantly, the desktop app from Splice can see everything. It can see everything that your DAW is doing in terms of tempo, stop starting. It can give you more context of samples and loops and stuff like that in Splice directly into your session. So you can figure out tell it the key. Yeah, you can do so much. So I use this all the time. I am always bridging the tempos between my DAW and Splice to give me context. So I'm not just hearing drum loops at 150 BPM when the session's at 120. So I find this plugin to be invaluable. Splice Bridge, definitely utilize this if you're using Splice. Yeah, and Splice, that is pretty much the creative tool that can get you out of any writing block. It is so good. You can just flick through there and then go through sample packs. There's some sample packs in there that have song starters, which I use sometimes. You just put in a song starter loop and then I'll just go ahead and I'll start writing something, and 9 times out of 10 I'll probably turn off the song starter loop because it's already taken me on a journey. So yeah, definitely look into Splice. Okay, so that's it. I've turned in a video about what plugins I've been using in 2024 into a bit more of a, this is a bit of a stock take to see where I'm at in 2024 and what I'm using. So maybe next year I'll come back and watch this video and see what I was using and if I'm still using the same things. But hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys in terms of getting a bit of an insight on what I've been using, if you like the sounds that I've been creating and the songs I've been creating. Yeah, it's actually not a whole lot of stuff. It's very basic. It's guitar, amp, sims, generally from Neural DSP. It's Get Good Drums, libraries. It's a handful of plugins and a few VSTs. It's not a whole heap, and I feel like I'm doing okay, achieving some pretty decent sounding demos. So yeah, here's a bit of an insight. I probably will go in depth on an actual demo soon to show you the writing process that I have, and maybe you'll find that useful. So if you want to see that, and you want to see me breaking down from inception of a song to the point of releasing the demos for something on this YouTube channel, let me know. Besides that, I feel like I've been rambling, so I am going to leave you. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. Cheers.